Here's the rack from the deer that I shot, 28 inches. This is kind of a good deer for this because the antlers aren't quite symmetrical at all. Your eyes stick out too far and it looks like your deer got kicked in the nuts. Taxidermy is Bondo and Bondo is taxidermy. Hopefully now you'll have some of the tools that took me years to acquire to mount your own critters. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel on how to mount a whitetail deer. This here is part number 11, and it's how to do the basic finishing stuff for the nose pad and the eyes. So we're just gonna get right into it. This deer is now dried for roughly 2 weeks, maybe a little bit longer. First I gotta do is I pull all the pins that are most accessible, or accessible anyway. So the ones on the nose, they come on, just throw them right on the floor here. So remember, we put these anchors in the nose pad, and then there is one pin here in the corner of the eye, but it's so pushed in and deep that it's not gonna matter. You'll never see it, so we're gonna just epoxy right over that. So we take pins out. Check this one, yep, that one's in deep enough too where you won't see it ever. Next thing I do is I pull out my nose stuffing here. And this is just to keep the shape of the nostril that you built in. Looks good. Pull this stuff on this side. All right, so once you've got the nose kind of cleaned out here, what I like to do is to get my eye ready for epoxy. And I take a scalpel, very sharp blade here, and the eyes are glass. So as long as you don't go straight in on it and you keep it at an angle like this, you can just take all the old clay and glue, residue, whatever's on the eye, right off. So we're gonna just go around the eye, and I make sure I get back into where I'm gonna fill with epoxy. I get all the clay and stuff out of here. Kind of dig the tip in the corner a little bit, like up in there to really clean that out. Like I said, I've done this on thousands of deer, so several thousand eyes, and I've never scratched an eye as long as you go at an angle. Now I'm not going to bore you too much on you just do the other eye the exact same. And then to make sure there's a good transition of epoxy in here, I make sure that I go around with the tool, the molding tool, and I push all the skin. I'll show you here. I push all the skin up. Like here, there's a little piece of skin sitting out. I just very gently give that a push in. I add a little bit up here. Same thing. There. There's just a kind of a hard edge, and I'm just pushing that up so that when I put epoxy in, it'll just fill in that little gap. Now I'm gonna do the other eye, and then we're gonna get to doing the epoxy. All right, here we go. We're back. So once the eyes are ready for epoxy, I literally take, it's epoxy sculpt, A and B, same amount for both, and I just dunk it right in water, and I mix it up. And I do it till it's actually pretty runny, because I like to wedge it in the eye and work around it. So I'm going to show you how I do that. You can see the lower and the upper lids in this view here. And what you're doing is filling the gap between the glass and the eyelid. And you're trying to even out the glass, like the distance between the eyelid and the pupil, best you can. Because then this is where you're gonna paint, is right on this. So this is kind of the last transition piece for the eyes. So I don't use a ton. You can see in there that there's just a little piece of like light colored skin right up against the glass. That's kind of essentially what I'm just gonna fill. And then we'll wait a day. I don't do it right after. I'll wait. I mean, you can wait probably a couple hours, but I'll be sleeping. So I'll come back tomorrow or the next day and hit this up with some paint. Also, after we do the eyes, we'll fill the nose with epoxy, sculpt, and those pinholes, and then we will dot the nose. I shouldn't say dot, we'll texture. I don't dot anything. I use gloves because I think I'm allergic to something in here. Makes my eyes weird if I get it kind of all over. So, you just get it on. Start right here. Now there are the pins, like I said, in the inside corners of these eyes. But once this is over the top of them, you'll never see them. And if it is accessible, these ones were buried in there. If it is accessible, I'll grab them, take them out. But usually they're buried and they're pretty good, and you don't need to worry about them. So this isn't, rocket science. You could spend a lot of time doing this. I found that it's faster if you just get the sculpt in there. Get it wet. And then shape it how you want it to. And I do this with a brush. So I just dunk it in the water I have here. I should have grabbed a paper towel. And I just get this really wet. I don't know if you can see it. Probably be able to see here when I get it wet. It just kind of smooths and smears kind of all over the place. Okay, once that eye's in, we'll go and do the other eye. Come over here. We're in. Just get it wet. And if you have any pieces, like I got some chunks right here, I think they're actually okay, but if there's like a gouge in the skin, this is when you'd want to fix that and maybe texture it to make it look like the leather. Because you're going to paint over that, and if there's a small hole or imperfections in the skin, as soon as paint touches it, it is going to stick out really, really poorly. All right, once I get that on there, I kind of take a look back at the eyes here, and you can see them on this camera. I try to get them as level as I can. So you got way more in this eye than I have in this eye. But I'm just gonna kind of do my normal process here, and then we'll take a look and see where they're at. Now, because I put a lot of detail in my eye, doing this part, you know, they're actually pretty close already. So it doesn't require a whole lot of sculpt. And I actually dig a lot of this out. And then I use the tip of the brush when it's wet and I'm doing my last little touches on it to kind of leave a channel so the tip of the scalpel, when I go to clean the paint off, has like a groove to set in so that it doesn't touch. So it doesn't scrape away the color that I put to it. When we go to paint in the next step. And I do that kind of by pushing it back up. And if you have any ridges here of epoxy when you're done, like a lip, when you put paint on it, you're gonna see it. So be sure to push this sculpt around so that when you go to paint it, there's a nice smooth transition from the glass to the lid. See, I'm pushing in there with the tip and I'm pulling out. That way I have a nice ridge for the scalpel blade, or channel for the scalpel blade to slide in there. And I kind of use my finger for the rest of it. Okay, that lower or that upper lid is good. Let's work on the back corner. Also good, lower lid. Now on this inside corner, the deer have this, it's called the nictitating membrane, I think. You can put that in or you can not put that in. This is a little more eye detail. I'll do it on this one because I have some in the corner. And whatever you do on one side, be sure to do on the other. Okay, there's one eye. Now I'll do the other eye kind of how I always do them. And then it's just basically scraping a lot of this off. You can see it all on there. We're just gonna match the other eye up with it. I have too much on this inside corner. So we're gonna scrape some of that out. Because he's looking to the left. So more of this would be visible, I think, on his other eye anyway. That's nicer. Okay, that's done. I'm just gonna kind of rub these eyelashes a bit because it's kind of just sitting up in there. Okay, so my first order of business is I fill the holes from the pins. And I do this on both sides because I have forgotten this a whole bunch in the past, and you go to paint and it's just annoying because then you gotta go back and fill. So we're gonna fill the pinholes. Done. We are going to grab some Q-tips. You're going to reach in there with your tool and you still want to see the septum, but you're just putting it in there like so. So this is going to be your gap to fill the gap between where you cut the excess nostril off and the skin with the hair on it. Now I like to put a little, because the nose kind of naturally has this little chunk of cartilage up here. And then it rolls back in there, but we're just gonna get it so it's pretty. Not often, but sometimes you have some on top that you need to fill. As this starts to harden, it gets kind of crumbly, and you'll know when you have to abort and get new sculpt. Back in my prime, I would do 2 deer with 1 session of sculpt, but anymore I just get 1 deer out of it. So I wet a Q-tip, and then that's when I transition it into the plastic septum with the milk jug. All sides, top, middle, bottom, all of it. Transition it all, and then I kind of just wipe it off the clay, or off the hair. And this way, you can look inside the nostril and has a little life to it. So we're going to turn it. I can push this back. It's going to be really difficult to see, but we'll do the best we can here. So essentially, you just do both on both sides here. Same on both sides. There's a chunk in there I had to clean up. Okay, that looks nice. Nice smooth transitions. You've got your sculpt on the eyes and inside the nostrils. Everything's transitioned and looking nice. The last thing I do before I let it sit and dry before paint is I texture the nose. Now there's a bunch of tools you can use for this, like little daubers, or they have a roller. There's a lot of different people's methods to doing this, and I don't like the people that take the easy way out. The daubers work good, but I always seem to not clean the tip, so they look terrible. So I just have a brush, and I've used it for a bunch of these, so it's just already like hard. Now there's on this nose pad, there's like little, there's like a puzzle to this, and it shows you, if you just look at it, how the nodules go. Now, I'm going to put up a reference photo of a nose pad that I like, and it's very subtle. Now, there's a lot that, you know, some of these little nodules look bigger, deeper, or less even, where it doesn't look like, it just looks smooth. I'm going to do this pad because it's just kind of what I like. You do what you like. But just don't do the deal where you just put it on and use a roller. I understand that this takes a while, but it just looks so much nicer. And then I actually go in, once this dries, maybe tomorrow morning, I'll come down here before I leave for work, and I will Mod Podge right over the top of this, like a thin layer over all of these little texture pieces I'm making. Because right now this is too much texture, but I just need to get the texture on there. So I get this on, and then I fill in the gaps with a light coat of Mod Podge over everything when I'm done. And I do that twice. So I'll wait till this dries, put it in, not put it in, I'll wait till this dries, and then I will go over it once, let that dry again, and then I'll go over it again. And that's just a thin layer. I'm not texturing it again. It's literally just a thin layer over everything. And I try not to get it in the hair, the Mod Podge. Now, some of them are hard to see, so you can, it's okay, you can make it up. Or you know, if they're really small, you can mix them together. But the deer's nose pad tells you how it should look. And they're like a fingerprint. They're all different. So don't just put knobs of freaking Mod Podge on here. That is such a tacky look. Yeah, sure. Then you could claim, yes, I textured the nose. But did you? No, it looks like garbage. So that's it. We're one step closer to putting this deer back on the wall. We've got the finishing work done. We epoxied the eyes inside the nostrils, and we textured the nose. Now when this dries, I will go over the back of it, or I'll go over the top of it to fill in the gaps with Mod Podge, because this texture is a little too overkill for what I like. And I'll do that twice. And once that's completed, I'll see you guys in the next video for finally finishing up and putting some paint on them.